All right, so welcome to another episode of Tea Time at PX. Today we're sitting with Sonya Masur, founder and visionary of Zenathon. Now, first of all, why don't you tell us what is Zenathon, what you're about, and start from there.
Okay, thanks for having me first, Jay. I really love being in your space. It's so beautiful and zen. And so we'll take that zen moment and kind of run it into Zenathon. Zenathon is a dream of mine that had been coming for years, truthfully, and kind of has taken all of the things that I love and brought it into one place for lots of people. And so previously, I've been working one on one with people, helping them unblock things in their life so that they can live the life that they truly want to live. And so I'm a reiki healer, crystal therapy practitioner, plus I also do a lot of aromatherapy work. And I basically meet people where they are, hold sacred space, allow them to let go of the things that don't work for them anymore so that they can move forward in life. And I have loved this. It's an honor and a privilege to sit with people as they move through life and take power back and have the aha moments where they don't have to continue patterns that have been set, patterns that they've either created or just been creating by situations, interactions, that they can actually pause and see what their options are. And probably but right before the pandemic, I was thinking I work with a lot of elite athletes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, always with mindset and breath work and all different things. And it just kind of is thinking and listening to them. And wouldn't it be great to do this for everybody, but not necessarily in an athletic way, but maybe we do yoga, meditation, and walking. So that was my original thought for Zenathon. And I was looking for spaces to do this and have 3 different people lead this. And then comes March 2020, and everybody kind of thought we were on like a 2-week break. Initially, everybody thought, that's not a big deal. We'll move through this. But it really changed. And lots of people became very anxious. And so the one-on-one actually built up during that time, as opposed to being able to gather in groups of hundreds of people was my vision. And so it actually gave me the opportunity to let that idea fully expand so that it could come together the way Zenathon actually did. We had our first in-person Zenathon this past September 2024 in Sharon, Massachusetts. And so that was a day of peace, bringing 38 presenters together, all presenting different tools so that we could learn more ways to bring peace to ourselves. And then by the end of the day, we transform into beacons of light or beacons of peace. And then when we leave, we bring more peace to our home, to our family, to our neighborhood, to our workplace, to our schools, to our towns, to our United States, and ultimately to the world at large. So the whole mission is bringing peace to you first and to the world.
So, like, sort of a ripple effect, but that ripple have to start from within and then have it spread out to as many people as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Sonia, I'm curious because I know a lot of healers, such as yourself, come from a certain background that sort of propelled them to get into this work, right? Like, most people aren't going to school and say, I want to, practice Reiki and doing
Right.
that. So, tell me about the journey that you took to find yourself in this space.
Well, I think, as you're saying, it's in life. I was an artist working with crystals and creating jewelry, initially not even aware that all of these different minerals and crystals have different healing components, and then putting them together. And then at one point, I had a physical ailment kind of come into my life and cause a dead stop in partaking in life. And I didn't really share what was going on. And my our girls were quite young, and so at the time they walked to school, so I didn't have to get in the car. And I couldn't drive, I couldn't sit, I couldn't really walk that well. And I tried to heal myself because I'm not really that doctor-oriented. And so I did go to the doctor, didn't like what they had to say, and then ultimately ended up seeing an acupuncturist who I would credit changing my life and my perception of connecting into your body and learning about all the energy meridians, all the chakras, all the energy layers of your aura, and opening that up for me.
Curious, what did the doctor say? Now, if it's too personal, you don't have to share. But what kind of things did they say when you went into the traditional medical system?
Sure. When I went to the doctor, they told me I had no choice but to have an operation, and that there were no alternatives, that I had to have an operation, and potentially I would have to have a bag for the rest of my life. And I was in my 40s, and this was, if I was 99, this would not have been an option for me. While I think all medicine has pluses and minuses, and I actually think that weaving as many different philosophies together that work for each one of us is key, taking the best of everything. For me at that time, that was not an option for me. I would not go that route. And I just knew, I didn't know what, but I knew that I would figure it out.
Wow. And so you went to acupuncture. You got some sessions done in acupuncture, and did you feel a difference in your body already, where you feel like, okay, I'm a believer, and there's something else out there?
Well, I'll tell you, I was always in a lot of pain, and I wasn't really eating much, and I wasn't drinking much because I didn't want to have my digestive system to work regularly because that caused a lot of pain. And when I got to the acupuncturist for the first time, I actually said to her, you know what, I'm just going to pay you and leave, because I didn't realize I need to lie down. And when I lie down, the pain is so much that I just end up throwing up. So I didn't think this through. I'm in a lot of chronic pain right now, and I'm just going to pay you and leave. And she said, do you think you could give me 10 minutes? And I thought, yeah, 10 minutes I could do, but you can't leave my side, and you have to have a bucket just in case. And she put in some needles and started sharing mantras and just asked me to repeat after her. And for the first time in 18 months, I was without pain.
What are those mantras? I'm sure we want to know.
Well, you know what? I can't even tell you what they are because they were Sanskrit. So I was repeating things that I had no idea what they really meant. But what it did was it got me out of the pain and into an energy of something else while I was kind of doing this breath work that was leftover from childbirth that just moved me into a different space. And then she said, would you be willing to stay? And I was, yes. I said, I will stay without a doubt. And I left that session, and I'll never forget this. I felt like the bionic woman, like I could lift my car up. I felt no pain, completely high. And when I got home that day, I was in the kitchen, and my kids came home from school, and they were, Mom, you're standing up. You're in the kitchen. And I said to them, I'm back. I am never going back to that. But little did I know that 4 days later, and I had never experienced this, the pain was outside my body, and I felt it coming back. And that's when I kind of panicked, because I had just gotten 4 days of normal life like I had always had. And I called the acupuncturist, and she said, oh, Monday's my day off. I work Saturdays, I take Sunday, Monday. I burst into tears, and I said, you have no idea. I can't go back. I can't do this. And she said, give me an hour. I'm at the gym. I'll meet you. I went back to her office. Within 10 minutes, I was out of pain again, and then I asked a million questions.
Right. And what were some of those questions that was super profound for you?
Like I said, what's going on?
Yeah.
And she said, did you think you were healed? I said, yeah,
Yeah. 4 days.
I did. And she said, you've been in pain for 18 months, and you thought one session healed you? And I said, I did. And she said, wow, no, you're holding on to, you have a lot of blockages. We are going to help you learn to release, and the acupuncture helps clear the meridians so energy won't be stuck, which is how pain gets going and staying and then used to. And it took me, I went twice a week for 6 months. And then I mentally decided I didn't want to go twice a week anymore, that I was done, that I could go once a week. My body wasn't ready, but I decided, and the acupuncturist said, I really think you need twice a week. But I was like, well, I'm deciding once a week is enough. And she said, I really think your body needs more. And I said, thanks for your opinion. I'll continue now for once a week. She's like, okay. And then that following week, I ended up in a lot of pain where I had been pain-free. And I didn't go in until the once a week mark. And she said, really, Sonny? You could have come in, you listened to your body. And I was still not trusting or allowing to lead from the body. I really wanted my head to lead, and learned.
Yeah, so what happened next?
Well, then I listened. I stayed twice a week until I could tell that I really only needed once a week. And then I needed once a week for probably another 8 months. And then I just found myself, I wish I wasn't going to acupuncture. I really want to do this. And that's when I started, I don't need it anymore. And it was about a year and a half, which is, if you think about, it took me 18 months of solid pain. And it took about 18 months to move out of it. And kind of that's a great balance energetically. Sometimes how long things take in can take the same out. It can change, and it's not always that. But that happens sometimes. And it just opened up all of these expansive energy opportunities for me.
Were you interested in energy before this experience? Or did this have been the thing that really pushed you to explore further?
This pushed me. I mean, I've always been, I would say, open to other things, but this opened all of the possibilities that I really didn't even know were there, brought it front and center.
That's amazing. So after that is done, do you ever went back to see that doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely. I sent lots of clients to her.
No, the medical
Oh,
doctor.
the medical doctor, I called him.
Yeah?
I called him up and I told him the story, and he was in shock. And he said he'd loved the name of the acupuncturist, and I gave the information, and he never sent anybody there.
Yeah, that's kind of the medical system. Well, I think the medical system is good, but there's so much out there. Like you said before, we don't know what we don't know. And there are certain things where there's not a lot of side effects. Like it's the worst it can happen is that it doesn't work. So why not try? Because the alternative is the surgery with the bag. Like, oh my God. Even if it had taken you 2 years, I think that would have been a fair trade to not have that done.
Well, exactly. And I wasn't willing to take that chance of having an operation where, and it was also a 50-50 chance with the operation that was going to work. And I just thought, okay, thank you for your wisdom and for your way. That doesn't align with me. I got to figure this out. I don't even know which way I'm going, but I know what way I'm not going. So it just opened the door to what else do I need to ask? I need to ask more questions. I need to see what I could weave in to the way that resonates with my life.
That's awesome. So after that experience, and you started to dive into learning more about that space yourself, right? So tell me about that and how you come around to helping other people.
Sure. And so that kind of led into Reiki, where I love crystals, and I was at a crystal store this time and buying.
I'm just curious, what do you like about crystals? Like, what about crystals that drew you?
I think from a very young age, as a little kid, I would collect rocks and take a hammer and smash them and look inside and see like what they were. And I grew up going to a museum outside of New Haven that had a whole crystal mineral display. And I was just always drawn to them, not realizing that they actually shift energy. When you have them, crystals are, even though I would say people don't think they're living things, they have energy. And so each crystal has a molecular composure that's different. And with that difference, they emit that kind of energy that's coming from the crystal. So when you put crystals in rooms, whether they're visible or not, they set up an energy field. And so working with them, they support where you want to go. So it's not so hard that it's all coming from you. You can have crystals that help shift your cells in your body, because we're made up of complete energy, and we respond to other energetic things. We respond to other energetic beings. People would probably easily relate to that. When someone's in a bad mood, all of a sudden you feel yourself shifting around them, right? Mm-hmm. So crystals aren't necessarily in bad moods. They keep a positive energy, or what, maybe it's an energy of vitality, maybe it's an energy of love, maybe it's an energy of clarity, maybe it's an energy of speaking your voice with greater ease. They support you in that way. So I love crystals. I mean, people love jewelry. Why? Because of the crystal. They would call it a gem, but they're all gems, minerals, crystals, all have energy.
Mm-hmm. And you have taken that and then you go into Reiki.
Yeah, and so I went to this crystal shop, and then I ended up meeting my Reiki mentor there by just taking a class, and she was teaching about crystals, and I said, what else do you do? Because you can't just teach about crystals. There's not enough people who want to learn about that.
Unless you're like a professor in crystals. And
yeah, geology, you certainly could be. And she said, I do Reiki, and I had never heard, I didn't even know what it was. And I said, what is it? And she said, it's kind of like acupuncture without the needles. And I thought, so maybe I would try it. And I went once, and I thought it was wacky and crazy. And I told her my brief story, and she said, I'd love you to use the mantra, I am healed. Say it first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And I said to her, well, I'm like 95% healed, so I can't say that because that's not accurate.
I was just going to say, because I have experiences in which I was in situations in rooms where was repeating mantras, and it's like simple things like, I am loved, I am these things, but deep down I know I don't believe in my words. So for me, it's very hard to speak those words. So I'm very happy to hear that you have that same experience, and this is kind of your space.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And this is interesting. And I, too, can't say things I don't believe. And so I say that to her. And she says, well, I'd like you to try it. Would you be willing to try it? And I said, no.
You're like me. I think I would have done the same thing. Or I would have tried it really like
not
quarter.
Really.
Yeah,
right.
try, but not
right.
really.
Right. So I was like, no. And so this is how we got along. So you can imagine it wasn't a great session, because I was like, okay, we don't work together. So I was like, just whatever. I stayed for the session. At the end, I'm paying her, and she says, I'm writing you in for a session in 2 weeks, which right off the bat was a trigger for me. I don't want to come back. And she said,
right. Did you ask me if I want to come back?
right. And so she says, I'd like you to say the mantra, and in 2 weeks, you'll report back how it goes. So the bubble above my head is, okay, when I get home, I'm going to call and just cancel because I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm driving home 30 minutes, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. This is wacko. I'm not even going to tell anybody I ever did this. This is so nutsy. And then that night in bed, I hear this like little voice, why wouldn't you say these 3 words? It doesn't cost anything, and it doesn't hurt. Like, do your own experiment. Just try it. And then, of course, you're like, no, this is crazy. I'm not doing it. Gotta call her. I'm not going to do this. Well, would you try it for 7 days? And it's like, no. Would you try for 5 days? And I was like, oh, all right, I'll try it for 5 days. So I make this deal, and whenever I say something, I do it. So the next morning I wake up and I say, I am healed. And then I hear, like we said it, like kind of halfway. You didn't really actually, if you're going to do this, you have to do it. So I was like, okay, I am healed. And I do this for 5 days. And there was something that was still happening within my body that was very clear that I wasn't healed. So every day I really couldn't leave the house until all this blood happened. And I knew where I kind of was. On the 5th day, I woke up and there was no blood. So this is the first time in almost 2 years. And so now I feel, it doesn't occur to me that the mantra was the blood, connected to the blood. So I don't tell my husband. And I just think, oh, now I can't go out of the house. I can't do all these things and nothing happens the whole day. That night when I say I am healed, it dawns on me. And maybe, and I go, no, it's absolutely impossible. It can't be. But now I say it a little more like, I am healed. But it takes me 3 more days to say something because I don't believe it. I'm very skeptical.
Right. And I think that's part of human nature. Like, we are supposed to be skeptical. If we just believe in everything, then we won't survive.
Right.
We're just going to get eaten by a tiger or,
Right.
or something.
Running down and chasing me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so on the 3rd day of no bleeding, I say to my husband, Jim, I haven't bled in 3 days. And he's like, did you go to the doctor? Are you taking medicine now? I said, no. I went to this crazy Reiki lady in Sharon, Massachusetts, and she told me to say, I am healed, and believe it. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I was going to cancel my appointment. He's like, you're going back.
Right.
Figure it out.
Jim said, I don't know what it is. It's working. You're going to go.
So I went back. It was really weird, and I didn't really want to go back to her, but I did. And she says, how are you? And I said, I'm healed. And she said, I knew you would be. And I said, how did you know?
It's such a Reiki person thing to
Right?
say.
Right? And she says, I could see in your field, if anybody asked you, you said, I am healing, or you just kept quiet. So you kept it. She said, what we did was plant the seed that you were done, and your body followed. And I was somewhat in shock, somewhat in awe, but it happened to me. And so I shared this with all of my clients if it's appropriate, or if they have something going on that's physically. I mean, I also have them go to other people so that I'm not necessarily someone who you would only come to if something is going wrong physically. I have the team approach. But the mantra, I am healed, even when you don't believe it, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost anything. To play with it changed my life.
Wow. So speaking into existence, your alternate reality. I love that. And we see this in some of the clients that we see. So people who have chronic pain, people who've been suffering from this back pain that's been going on for 20 years. And some of the language they use, we can pick out. They say, how's that feel? It's like, oh, it's fine for now. Wow. You just spoken to the future of how this will feel. And when you speak into it, I think our nervous system and our mind has this innate ability to want to take what we think and say and turn it into reality. I think that's maybe part of what manifestation is about. And I believe some of that. I don't think I need to understand how it works. I know it exists on a continuum. And words are so powerful. Because when someone comes in with pain and they say, oh, yeah, this is going to hurt. Well, you haven't even tried it, you know? And so part of our job is can we, like, for example, we were doing a session today and you were walking on your heels and you're like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. And the first time it was hurting and we did what we did and then you did it again, maybe expecting that it's going to hurt, but it didn't. And that's how we shift perspective and that's how we shift narrative in our head. And I love it because at the end of the day, what we do in physical therapy, you know, what energy does at the very peak of it is the same thing. It's shifting belief system, it's shifting perspective, it's shifting what people think about what they can and cannot do, and when they can, or if they can or cannot heal.
I 1,000% agree with you how impactful words are and how many times we say things over and over in our head. I can't do that. I'm stupid. This has never been my thing. And we make it smaller and smaller and smaller, as opposed to larger and more expansive and limitless. And it actually takes more energy to keep getting smaller and staying in that space versus
Expand on that.
opening. Well, when we're worried, right? I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. I'm afraid of that. It sucks. It constricts your whole being, and it's hard to hold yourself tight. It actually takes a lot of energy to hold things back and to resist. But when we open to flow and we get connected from the earth to the universe, and we're the vessel that holds all that energy and just is in the flow, that's where the magic happens. It's expansive. We are limitless. We don't have to only do this. We settle for breadcrumbs so many times. The whole thing is there. You just have to relax, breathe,
Yes.
and open to it. And then it's like, all the magic is always right here. It's just trusting and maybe connecting with someone who can help remind you, maybe this is a really beautiful way to do it. Let's check it out. I'm right here with you. And then you basically give them the tool to themselves, the keys for their own being, for their own soul. And then you see the light that happens. And it's beautiful.
It's so funny because what you're describing is what we do in that sense. I say, hey, allow your body to move the way it's supposed to move versus you trying to make it move in a way you think it should move. And when you allow the body to just behave, allow your joints to fall in the right place, your body accepts these movements and it changes the entire pattern. And you experience that today in a way. Just let it go. Let it go. Let the breath take care of it. Let the body move on its own.
Yeah, the breath for me today in particular was very igniting, like completely changed my whole structure, I would say, which then allowed for things to fall into the place that they naturally feel the best, which stopped the tension for me today in the heel and then relaxed it. And then I didn't have the pain, which I've had for over a month right now. Whoosh, melted away.
It's amazing what it can do. Everything is so intricately connected. Now, I want to get back into Reiki for a bit because I've been hearing a lot about Reiki. Personally, because I've been hearing about it so much, I am interested in it. I think at some point I want to go over and check it out and experience it for myself. What do people do inside a Reiki session? Like, what goes on inside one of these sessions?
Well, Reiki sessions are really different depending on each practitioner, the same as with each physical therapist has their
Right.
method, their way. A session with me includes a beginning talking point of what's going on in your life. And as you talk, I slide tools out to you, and either they resonate and you take them or you hockey puck them away. No, that doesn't work for me. Because even though during session and in the sacred space that we have, lots of things feel awesome, which is wonderful, it's really what goes on in the real world, in your world, outside of this space. And we're trying to bring the things that happen inside here outside. So we have a talking component, and then we have a table component. And the table component is, I start with a prayer that just connects us all to the earth and the universe. And the energy then flows, and you lie down pretty quiet. And I just do a guided meditation, moving through all of your chakras, releasing stress, tension, negative energy, energy blockages, limiting beliefs, and bringing you back into your balance, which is different than my balance, which is different than your wife's balance, your baby's balance. We all have our own natural balance point, very similar to what we experienced in your treatment room. And when you're in balance with yourself, everything comes into alignment with ease. There's no pushing, no making it happen. There's no tough it out. It's beautiful and flowing. And so the table component lasts about 40-ish minutes, and then there's a slow bringing you back to your body, wiggling your fingers and your toes, and then I share with you what your body shared with me, and we see if there are things that, there's no homework, But maybe there's some things that you might want to bring into your life. I may say, you know what, it seems like you may need some more yellow in your life. Your solar plexus chakra seems like needs a little extra support. So eating, drinking, wearing yellow. People often hate it when I say wear yellow, but I say, you wear yellow socks to bed. You could, but now yellow's kind of also, neon yellow's kind of in. So,
I see some yellow on you right now.
all right, a little yellow never hurts. Yeah. So, and that's the session. It's usually leave very different than when you came in, much more peaceful, more open, relaxed, and more aware.
I love that. Now, when you're working with this energy with someone in front of you, now does that affect your energy as well as the practitioner?
Great question. Definitely. And I use that tool. You learn through training to connect and understand so that you can help somebody better move forward. But as a practitioner, it's crucial not to hold that energy. It's almost like a thermometer check. Where are you at? Okay, thank you. As opposed to merging, and then you get what I would call, in not professional terms, slimed. And you hold their energy. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted. If you're exhausted, I used to teach Reiki a lot. If you're exhausted, that means that you're actually not being more like a frying pan. You're being more like a sponge. And you're trying to take away other people's issues, other people's problems, other people's issues in their tissues, right? There's all these things. And it's kind of like bartender syndrome. When I used to teach, I say, if you're tired like the bartender at the end of the day, listening to all these people talk, then you actually haven't gotten the right boundaries set yet. Because we do need to know, we need to listen, we need to check, but we slide it off or send it up to the universe to be transmuted into positive energy and to be called on as needed.
Yeah, and I find that to be true even for our profession. Like, I always thought about this, but there's no research to back this up. I would say there are sessions when energetically I'm in a good place. Everything that we do works really well. When I'm not in a good place energetically, even if I pick the same exact exercise, same exact thing, somehow it doesn't work. And it is crazy because it has been consistent. So that proves that I think there's something about a human interaction that is healing it in itself. Like I say, exercises don't heal people. Humans heal people. And I really believe in that. That's why I don't think we're ever going to be replaced by machines per se, because you're going to miss that energetic interaction. And I love that question because you work with energy directly. I know there has to be some kind of impact. So how do you keep yourself away from absorbing too much of other people's energy when you're working with them for the whole day?
Well, it's called energy hygiene, so to speak, and it
Oh.
takes practice and awareness, and you set an intention each day. For me now, it's more automatic. It's where I base, but in the beginning, every day, I would say kind of a mantra of, this is me, this is whoever, and I can learn the energy of what's going on, but I'm going to be a frying pan. And I'm a visual person, so instead of being a sponge, I'm going to be a frying pan. I also use tools to help with that. So I have a clear spray, which I'll spray in a space to keep the energy clear. And then in the beginning, I used this other spray, which is called Violet Flame, which allowed me to be more like a frying pan instead of a sponge, because I think most of us, especially healers, want to help and want to alleviate anything. But in fact, it's our job to stand next to people while they do it themselves, because if we do the work for other people, they become codependent, and then they need us to heal all the time, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to have people take care of these things themselves. It's okay to learn from other people and be enlightened by certain tools and go have the aha moments, but we really want people to understand fully that they have all this within themselves. They may have trouble reaching it, or they may just need a little technique shift, which Because like the bing, 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 bing thing that happens when you're moving feet and it's connected to your whole body and then everything comes into alignment. Or maybe there's something going on in your heart that's throwing your whole system off, and we peel this back and we help you peel that back, and then you open, and then the flooding of love in yourself changes your connections with everybody else. And it's really taking care of ourselves first, especially as practitioners. I know I'm a really early riser, you're an early riser, so I have this sacred time in the morning just for me to put the oxygen mask on me, because if I don't have a full tank coming into my workspace, what ends up happening is my tank gets lower and lower and lower. So I fill my tank and then I overflow it, so that when I connect from the overflow space, keeping my tank full the whole time. Because otherwise I'm doing a disservice to myself and my clients. Because if I'm going off the empty tank, I'm like, oh, this is over. I don't want to do this. You think you got problems? I got problems. That's not why they're here. And so it's intentionally keeping my tank overflowed. And for me, that's working out in the morning. That's meditating in the morning. That's getting outside in nature. It's spending some time with my dog, then having tea with my husband before he goes off, and then having quiet. And then I'm ready for the day.
I love that so much because I find that to be so true. Even as as an entrepreneur, there's so many different hats that I have to wear, and there are times where things are just not going the way that we want it to go. And I remember there's periods of time where I was trying to push through it. Let's do more marketing. Let's do more content. Let's do more and more and more and more. And I was wearing myself down, and my energy was low. And I think my team, they never said this to me, but I can tell that it was affecting, and people were kind of absorbing what I was putting out. And what I did was, instead of trying to push, what I did instead is, I'm just gonna go to the gym more. I'm gonna give myself better nutrition. I'm gonna get better sleep. I'm gonna take my breath work, maybe do some cold plunges, and then after that, miraculously, everything else that I wanted to get done got done in a way that doesn't feel like I'm forcing it, in a way that sort of naturally come together. So sort of like what you said before about kind of allowing your body to just flow into the state that you need to go into, instead of resisting and pushing through resistance, which actually takes more energy. Now it's kind of wrapping around, and I'm really understanding what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. All right, so Sonya, so I want to talk about what's coming up. So you had Zenathon, we had a bunch of presenters there. People came in, and it sounds like a full body, mind, soul reset for these folks. Now, what's the plan for 2025?
Thank you for asking. I'm so excited. I have a 10-year plan, but we will talk about 2025.
Yes.
The next Zenathon in person is next September 14th, a Sunday, the same place in Sharon, Mass, on a beautiful camp, Everwood Day Camp, 70 acres on the gorgeous Lake Massapog that's right there. So that will be happening in person, and we'll have new practitioners, some of the same practitioners, because everybody didn't get to see everybody. Plus, we have a marketplace, and this year we will actually break for lunch. We did not break this past year, not in Zen style. In Zen style, we would have broke, but I wanted to fit so much in. And maybe we will have an online Zenathon in March. I'm playing with that idea so it can be more worldwide. I had lots of people from actually all over the world, and even all over the U.S. who wanted to come but couldn't get in a plane. And so I'm trying to figure out now the pieces to bring more peace to more people with greater ease. And so I see that happening online, and having it recorded, so that even if you can't come that day online and do it in person live, you can watch it anytime you want, and it'll be yours forever.
I love that, just having both options. But of course, if you can make it in person, definitely go in person. There's nothing going to replace human to human interactions in a shared space. And by the way, Sharon is where I got married, so right around that lake. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
it is beautiful. Yeah,
I didn't even know it was there, honestly.
we chose it because of that lake.
Well, when we went there the first time, I was like, where are we? This is so beautiful. And it felt very far away, like an oasis. I was like, this is where the zenathon is going to be.
It's a perfect location.
Yes,
Yeah.
ideal.
Okay, so if people want to learn more about Zenathon, they want to learn more about you and your services, where can they go?
Sure, both of those. Thank you for asking that. If you want to get in touch with me directly, my two websites, Sonya Masur, my name, .com, or Zenathon is Zenathon, like Zen, ZENATHON.org. And we have everything listed on both. Easy way. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, easy connect.
And we'll make sure we have all of that contact information in the video and into the podcast so you guys can find it easily. And Sonya, I will be seeing you for some Reiki sessions because I think you coming in as a skeptic and then was converted over, that makes me feel better because I got to be honest, I'm not 100% there, but I love to explore things.
Yeah.
So
Good. I'd love to have you in. Skeptics, always welcome.
love it, love it. Hey, well, thank you so much for being here today. And this is a fantastic talk, and I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. Look forward.